Thank you. All right. Welcome back to Rack Denver for this is February, right? Beginning of the month is hard for me. It's also beginning of the year. It's still 2018 to me, so I'm trying to catch up. Sorry. Rack Denver, February. We have Lars tonight. Lars actually met at Rack Rally this last year. I did a impromptu meetup in the bar because I had money to burn because our the platform we were using for sponsorship money was drying up. Like, get rid of your funds because it's going bye bye. So I had an impromptu meetup, and it would just happen to be that he pulls out a Colorado driver's license. And I'm like, all right, I need to ask because Will, Will was there. Will went with me. So, all right. Um, I do have a talk for next month already cooking. It's going to be me yet again. Yay. But AI and testing, how to actually just automate your testing. Um, and it's going to be a practical because it's exactly what I did for my project at work. And I'm going to show how I did that. So, anyway, I will kick it off to you.
Perfect.
And oh,
Awesome. Hey everyone, I'm Lars Olson. This is the very first talk I've ever given outside of work, so let's see how it goes. Yep, I know. I am working on it. There you go. Share again. Oh, there we go. Now it's loud. Awesome. So again, yeah, Lars Olson, first time I've presented. Done a lot of work, but never done it in public. Met these guys at React Rally, so he invited me out to talk about a recent app that I've been developing. Thought it'd be really interesting in React and AI and integration and everything like that. So I thought I'd talk about it. It's called Cooking with Coordinates. That was pretty clever. Basically, it's an app that helps people explore recipes from around the world. I'm going to go over that in a second, what that actually means. But one of the first things is, who even am I? So I'm Lars Olson. I have a BS and CS, Bachelor of Science, Computer Science. One of the professional backgrounds is I was a full stack dev at a student loan company. So apologies if you have a student loan. I started out as a Java and Kotlin developer and then switched over to work on the React project as well. And then nowadays I lead the development at Tate. We're a experience and entertainment company. So I do React and C++ there. It's basically, if you ever, watch a Super Bowl halftime show or watch a Taylor Swift tour, we do the staging and all the entertainment software for that. So it's a pretty cool job. I'm welcome to answer questions on that later. But other than that, the other info about me, I actually manage my own company in the music industry. I run a record label. It's been a little delayed at the moment because I've been busy with this thing. I also have another software as a service that does business management for record labels, also kind of postponed because I'm working on this thing. Met Jeff at Rec Rally where I started this app idea. So what is My Hometown Recipes? Software as a service lets you discover recipes kind of around the world. There's an interactive map you can select a pin on. And basically you can set some filters. I want it to be vegan. I want it to be breakfast food. Maybe I want it to be romantic. I don't know. There's certain filters and it will either do AI search. It'll go say, oh, I'll go identify some recipes from around that area, that latitude and longitude you provided. Or we also allow user submitted recipes or community submitted. So there's a bit of a homepage there. Where to get the idea? Like I mentioned. So I came up with the idea in 2017. So I've almost had it for a decade. I grew up in a family that baked a lot, like a ton. And I started getting really into it in college, which my roommates particularly loved when I would just show up with, a carrot cake on like a random Tuesday. So that was great for them. This is the fourth iteration of the app that I've worked on. So kept working on it. Didn't really know programming in college that well. First couple of iterations were Django Python backend and Android front end. So I actually have some pictures of screenshots of the app that I used to do. So this is 2019. It's pretty bad. This is when I was still learning programming. It's very basic. Going on to 2020, more colors, a lot of purple. And basically, yeah, it's at this point, I actually didn't even know React at all. I was still doing websites in like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript like directly, just like Yeah, it was pretty bad. So I didn't really start doing React until this same year, 2020. So this was the beginning of the year, right? It started COVID when I graduated, and then when I got the job that summer is when I started picking up React. So that's just a quick picture. One of the things we're going to talk about this presentation is, basically what's my tech stack, the AI integration and costs of like what I did for the app, some of the geolocation implementation that I had to do for the app, just on like how do you place pins, how do you normalize the data. I don't know, a lot of things like that. One of the things I learned at React Rally was gamification of an app that actually helped me kind of restart this app ideas is how do you make the app fun to use? And last slide, there was just like future ideas for implementation. Love for you give me ideas as well, come up with any. So before we get to what my tech stack is, I was taking pictures throughout development of this app, just kind of how it was going. So it started in August 2024. That's actually when React Rally was. This one enough is already fairly developed. I wish I would have taken a picture about 2 weeks earlier because it was literally just the map in the center, no names, no searching or anything. It was just a map. You could click a pen, you could press search, see if it worked. No, fair enough. Yeah, you go August 2024, you say September 2024. The map layout has changed. We've reduced a lot of buttons. The buttons have moved over to that little pop-up with a fun little linking filter that says you have applied filters. Picture of that. But it's a pretty simple, it's almost like a micro software as a service going on. You can see that there's the implementation of a search bar. I was getting a lot of feedback from my family and friends along the way, and they're like, how do I use the app? They didn't understand you had to click on it, which users are apparently a little dumb sometimes. And so I added the search bar and I literally added a sentence. I said, please, this is how you use the app. Click on it or use the search bar, enter your own location. If you enter a location in the search bar, it will take you to that place and it'll place a pin. And then the search location button will re-enable using search. And then the results will appear in the bottom. And lastly is January 2025. So just last month. The app is available to use. It's just available for friends and family, but you're welcome to just go use it now. The reason it's not available for like social media and all that yet is I'm still kind of waiting on community submitted recipes from family and friends. There's like 5 recipes you can find that's not AI search. So you could be like, cool, I blew through the entire app in like an hour. But this is it. I mean, a lot of the changes you can see between, October 2024 and January now is, there's spacing. I increased the height of the map. I got some input from the lead designer at my full-time job and just saying, can you please look at the app? What do you see that's wrong? What do you think that should be fixed? And so a lot of between now and then was either bug fixing or just styling updates. There wasn't a ton of additions. One of the new things was like, if you're a user, you can submit a recipe directly from the homepage. Because I learned that it was hard to find for people. And it was on some separate tab and people would be like, oh, I could submit a recipe. That's great. And then the search location button over there. I don't know, small little things. That last 10% of the app always takes, 6 months, and the first 90% takes also 6 months. So yeah, we can go ahead and move on. So the tech stack, move that over there. Supabase, that is going to host my database and authentication. So one of the things I actually did at React Rally was while hearing a talk, I was like, that's a great idea. So I actually started writing out the database structure during the talk. I wish I would have brought those papers because I still have them at home. And then cron jobs as well for scheduling jobs on the database. Hey, you only get 25 searches per month. On the first every month, you need to reset that count. So it's a lot of back-end stuff that I had to learn. But this app itself is literally just a Node backend and a React.js frontend. Cloudflare. So that's going to be domain security and worker hosting. So that's where I host the software as a service. Resend is email management, how you know all those subscriptions, how do you like verify your password when you sign up. They also provide a great library called React Email. So you can actually build an email all in React components, the headers, the titles, the descriptions, the images and everything. And then there's an output script that just outputs it directly into HTML, CSS, and JS. You copy directly over to your provider. So it's really awesome. Actually, I've come up with some really clever email designs that I've not previously had. They previously looked really bad. Geocodify is another one that actually helps a lot with the latitude and longitude lookup. So when you select the latitude and longitude, you need to figure out where the heck you are. It's just latitude and longitude. Great for the AI, but also you need to figure out address, country, city, continent, all that fun stuff. And then also with the search bar functionality. So type an address, it'll output a menu on where you need to look up. After that, Stripe payment processing. Got subscriptions. It's generally free to use for community submitted recipes, but if the AI feature costs me money, it's going to cost you money. So lastly, code base, use Remix. So it's a React.js front end and then a Node backend. So it's all encompassed in one repository, which is awesome. First time I've done a Node backend, and it went pretty smooth. And then Tailwind and ShadeCN for the design system. So I'm actually the design system engineer at my company. And I've done my own design system before. My last software as a service or application. Didn't really want to do that again. So just decided to use something that's already out there. That would also take 6 months of my own life, or I could use something in a couple hours. Awesome. Let me know if I'm going too quickly if you guys have any questions as well. But yeah, in AI integration and costs. So the current one I use is just Claude. I worked a little bit between OpenAI and Claude. Claude just seemed to have better answers, or at least followed the JSON format that I provided it a bit more. The OpenAI really decided to just keep on adding little characters in a JSON blob and would break the parsing of it. Don't know why, but Model A is Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It's a little outdated. I think there's one that's about 5 months newer now. There's Sonnet and Haiku. I think there was Opus back in the day, but Sonnet I think is one of the more newer ones. Surprisingly, it actually only cost me about 1 cent per input and output. So I actually, the API call out that you guys can see on the right is that max tokens you provide is the number of input and output tokens. That's so the smaller my input is, the larger the output can be. You can't really say max tokens for the input, max tokens for the input. And then lastly, on the next couple slides, I'm actually going to show an example of what the instructions are that I provide to the AI, and then what's the prompt that I actually give it. Slide. Yep.
I just wanted to, sorry, but is there location settings available on the app, like where you can, like literally, like where I'm at right now?
Not yet. Currently, the default location is literally just Denver.
Okay.
But one of the things I have upcoming planned soon is you can set your default location to where you currently are. Because one of the things I'd love to do is, let's say you go on vacation and you're somewhere else. Let's click my current location. Let's look up recipes where I'm at right now.
Right.
Because you'd love to see either what food can I make while I'm on vacation, or what food should I try when I'm in this particular town.
Exactly.
Yep. It's on the timeline. So is 1,000 other features. So yeah, here's an example of the instructions. So this doesn't take user input at all. It just basically tells Claude, please follow these instructions. So at the top, you're a culinary expert. Talk about nothing else, please. You almost have to talk to it like a child or like a computer. It's very direct. It's going to do exactly what you tell it to do, regardless if you like it or not. So then you give it exactly a JSON format, and you're like, please follow that. And then you give it some requirements, like please do 3 to 10 recipes. That's kind of dependent on how many tokens you provided. Please only find recipes with historical documentation. One of the recent things I had to add was that last rule: never append location names to generic recipes. You could just look up Amsterdam and be like, oh, Amsterdam biscuits. And you're like, that's not a real thing. Like, just don't make up. I mean, AI loves to hallucinate. So you really got to tell it. You're like, just if you don't find anything, you don't find anything. That's great, but like, don't just come up with some random things. I still have a problem with that. So I make sure to let the users know that it's not always true. And then one of the last things I did was, here's an example of what you would output. And so I have some family in Sweden still, from Uncle Home. And so one of the things was like, here's a recipe that I talked to my family from. This is the thing they eat. And please, output a recipe from Uncle Home. There's a description about Uncle Home and then a list of recipes. And so it actually does. I've actually not since these instructions, I've not had an issue with parsing the data, which is awesome. And that's just the instructions. The next thing is generating a prompt. So this is actually the user input. And so a lot of the similar things. First thing is to only provide information about food recipes from this latitude and longitude. I actually have never tried a search result with just latitude and longitude. I think a lot of it works a lot better with the lower half of the information: display name, city, county, state, postcode, or whatever. Some of that data is sometimes, an empty string, just because there is no counties in other parts of the world, or there are no zip codes or postal codes, other things like that. but it always does a generally good job. You know, the middle section is also, I can provide filters. What's a dietary restriction? What's a dish type like breakfast, dessert, dinner? What's a mood? You know, maybe I'm feeling it's a romantic meal, or I don't know. I'll be able to show the app again and kind of show some examples for that. But it just kind of to help refine that a bit more. Those also work really well with user recipes because those users will be like, this is a vegan dish. Next, geolocation features. So this is, you know, one of the main hard problems of the app. Is just kind of figuring out parsing of all these latitude and longitudes on a map. How do you, you know, group things? How do you make sure the performance is good when you're displaying hundreds or thousands of pins on one thing? So OpenStreetMaps is free to use. I use a library called Leaflet, and yeah, Google is, you know, a lot more expensive. One of the things though is while OpenStreetMaps does have their own AI to do, you know, reverse latitude longitude search, it is only limited to, I think, once per second. So that doesn't do when you have, you know, more than, you know, 5 people using your app. So that's where GeoCodify came in. I said that in the tech stack, but they're used to do the reverse latitude longitude lookup and then also for the search bar. And then one of the other things I will go over the next slide is the gamification. GeoCodified will return like what continent you looked in, which is really great. And so what I'll do is I can award a little achievement being like, hey, you searched in North America for the first time, or you searched in, you know, Antarctica. Why would you do that? But yeah, normalization of latitude as well was a really important one. So if you scroll all the way out on a map, you'll see like 4 Earths. It's just the same map overlaid over and over. And so you have to normalize the data. So you always make sure that it's between negative 180 and 180 latitude. And so when you're actually scrolling all the way out and you click on one of those little Earths over there, it's going to actually change the pin on the main map. I'll show an example on the way out. And then one of the biggest things I actually had to solve for this that I'm still working on is with most recipe apps, you submit a recipe and you're like, I loved it. This is really fun to cook. You don't really care about where it came from. This one is, what happens if people are being malicious and submitting recipes from areas they're not from? Which is going to come up. And so when you first submit, it actually always goes through a moderation process. I'm always, at the moment, I have to approve every recipe. It's going to suck when it becomes popular. Eventually, I'd like to do some AI like approvals, just checking if there's spam or things that are auto rejects. Or at the moment, I can go in, I can provide feedback on each thing that's submitted, especially with the location. I can actually change, on default, it's a low verification badge. It says low, like I haven't verified this is correct yet. And then there's medium, maybe it's correct. And then high is like, yes, they live here, this is where they're from, or they have previously been here in the past. I actually have the same thing as well for a user. So like if it's my mom who submits a lot of recipes on this app, I upgraded her to high verification. And so everything she submits is now high immediately. I don't have to actually look at her recipes anymore, which is great. And then one of the last things is the gamification of the app. So it was a big one I learned at React Rail in Utah is you just kind of make it fun for the user to use. I mean, if it's just kind of like you're like, oh, I searched a recipe, great, awesome. There's nothing making them come back. And so currently, the only achievements you can actually get right now is when you get a comment. So you get a little fun confetti thing, a little animation, a little slide bar that says, great, you searched in Europe for the first time. There's a list of all the achievements you can earn. Eventually, I'd like to expand it to be like, you've done 10 searches this month. There's hundreds of ways you can go. And as well, there's going to be leveling up. What number am I? Like, what level am I? You can display it on your public profile. There's going to be a ton of things. The one example we heard about was like Duolingo. Duolingo is a game, essentially. You can learn language along the way, but it's also a game. And lastly, future location ideas. I talked to a few of you guys a little bit ago, but one of the good ideas my family members gave was an ancestry connection. So I'm sure at least one of you guys in your family has someone who is interested in like ancestry.com or family search, and they input all the old family data. Family search has like a great free API where you can just log in. It basically can output where your family members, where are they from, what years are they from, and then you could ask the AI or something, being like, I'd love to learn about recipes from Sweden in the 1750s, something like that. For AI search results, I don't truly trust it yet. But I'd love to do like instruction and ingredient generation. So one of the things right now is when you get some AI results, it's just like, here's a title, here's a description, what it's about, and then it just takes you to Google. Because there's not great results for that. There's not even images yet because they don't actually do Google search polls yet on AI for copyright reasons. And more. There's 100 other ideas. I looked through my little Trello page and I think I have, two or 300 more things in the backlog. And yeah, that is pretty much it. That's a picture of my cat for having you guys sit through this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions. Sweet.
I'll be able to get to an idea.
Go ahead.
I'm curious, I was looking for that earlier today, and I was impressed by just how it looks and how functional it seems to be, and especially in the early state that it's in.
Yep.
How are you, like, do you have any end-to-end testing, like Playwright or anything set up, or are you just manually testing?
It's all manual testing. No, I would love to write some unit tests and integration tests and all that for it, but I just don't have the time. I'm probably working quite a few hours of my full-time job, and so this is probably only 15 to 20 hours of my life every week. So it's like I said, it's in the pipeline, but yeah, currently it's all manual testing. At this stage of the app, it's probably been almost done for 2 months. And so besides doing the business aspect of it, I've just been literally QAing it myself for 2 straight months. Which you almost find everybody. It's not a big app, so you kind of run out of things to test. But yeah, I just thought I'd show a quick example of the app. So here it is. We all live in Denver, so we can just show a good example from Denver. And so it will think about it. One, I can already see the community tab stop spinning because it noticed there are no community recipes here. Yeah, Rocky Mountain oysters, Denver omelet, green chili. I mean, it's a pretty general list of food that you would find around here. Sometimes I've found that it actually likes to hallucinate. Like back in Indianapolis, where I'm from, there's a really famous restaurant that does like a shrimp cocktail. And so all of a sudden be like, oh, shrimp cocktails from Indianapolis. And you're like, no, that's from the restaurant. That's not from here.
Yes.
Now there we go. And so that's the thing right now. There's no images because it's all copyright issues. And so I just brought a little banner. I'd love to do that in the future, but like searching right now just takes you to Google. There's some like small improvements right now where I'd be like, maybe in the settings you can choose your preferred search. Like take me to Bing, take me to DuckDuckGo. And then there's a little generated batch down here. So like I can show you an example of a community submitted recipe. Actually, I think I do have one in Denver. Funny enough, to find it. The right range. So on the map, you can get a little pin. And so I can say view here. This is actually something I submitted. I took very nice photographs for it. So it was very funny. I cooked the food at home. I was like, I don't really have good photos of this. And I did like a whole little photo shoot for breadsticks. It was great. And so, yeah, if it's a user submitted recipe, you get a description, you get the ingredients, instructions, all that. You get a little fun pin of where it is. And one of the things that helps with verification of the recipe is connection. What makes you connect with the recipe? Why did you submit it? This one is like my wife and I found on this recipe online. We've been modifying it. We've cooked it for like 5 years. So it's not always things that are from there. It's just people have connections to the recipes from this area. AI though will always submit things that are probably from there, unless it hallucinates. And so, I mean, we can go choose a random place as well. Let's go just choose Zurich in Switzerland. Apparently Zurich, I was in community recipe. But yeah, gives you a good list of, 5 or 6. Oops, that's my own fault. But yeah, that's the general idea. I mean, there's a lot of other tabs as well that say, save locations. What have I saved before? Save recipes, community generated. Same with achievements or this one. These are achievements that I previously earned. You can retrigger them just for fun. Get a lot of confetti. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, so I think it's a token per word. I think is generally the math for it. If you give a really long word, I think it breaks it up into about 2 or 3 tokens. but generally it's I think 8192 is what I did. It's just 2048 times 4. It just breaks it into saying that's something. I think I input about 2,000 words into it. And so it outputs about 5,000, 6,000 tokens words from it. The issue is that, well, like outputting in a JSON format, every bracket is also a token. If there's a space separated between it, that's a token. And so, yeah, it's best to simplify your JSON input and output as much as you can. What's the best readable way? Simplify as much as you can to save costs. I mean, it's 1 penny per cost at the moment, so I think I've done a fairly good job. But yeah. Any other questions?
The word system and how it breaks down, like achievements, how you have that in like a point system, and have you thought about like maybe like how that's integrated into your app model?
I don't know.
Okay, so like your points, by submitting recipes, you could potentially have goals with those points, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've also gotten great ideas saying, hey, I run my own recipe blog. I'll submit 2 recipes for free, and then maybe you can revenue share with me, and I'll make 10 premium recipes. And part of my subscription model could potentially go to part of that. It just encourages more recipe people. And then also there are, like you were saying, achievement things. Each one of these behind the scenes, I think, has a 20-point value. That means nothing at the moment because I haven't even defined levels.
Sure.
But there's 100 different ways. I've submitted a recipe the first time. That's worth 100 points. You can level up. Yeah, there's.
I like the idea.
It's
like where it will take you if your point system could be for reward IRM. Right?
It's something. I mean, yeah, you earn 1 million points, you get a exactly. Anything, yeah. It could go. I mean, we're in the very early stages of the app. Yeah. So one of the big things right now is like costs. I think right now I have it at $3 a month. Right now, that's because let's say somebody does the 25 searches a month for AI. I limit it. Just you don't want somebody to do infinite. That'd be 25 cents to about 50 cents per month. And then the other 250 helps me go to all the hosting costs. I think it's right now about $200 a month for me to pay for all the services. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Actually, yeah, one of the last things as well, people don't want, let's say you submit a recipe and you want to put it at where you're from, like your address, it will randomize that location. So it's not sitting on top of your home where you're from. And so you can actually, this little fun thing I designed is 5 miles, 1 mile. It will actually show these little pins as an example of where you think the pins will show up.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it all. Plus, like that.
Yep.
You go to one place, whole batch of
Yep.
Whole states out, we're gonna have like soda, whatever.
Would be awesome. Yeah, I think I limit drinks at the moment, but I have a little card for it to reintroduce that at some point. Yeah. Well, that is it. Awesome. Well, thanks so much.